Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's story. And if you do, please subscribe. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Bizzy. It's my first episode solo of 2025. It's episode 512. And this entire month, if you didn't listen to Monday's podcast with my husband, it's all about cleaning the soul, letting go of what no longer serves you. And you're like, wait a minute, how do I do that? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? And I'm going to tell you that it has been a journey for me of letting go of what doesn't serve me and getting to a place where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore and I can't do that anymore. And it's so crazy because I went into it a little bit on Monday's podcast about how, my kids came home and now they're adults. They're not kids, they're adults. They're my adult children. And they no longer want a helicopter mom. They no longer want somebody to tell them what to do all the time. And I sit there and I'm like, but you've hurt my feelings. And the reality is that I didn't want to hear what my mom had to say when I was in my 20s. There was no way. I did not want to hear. I did not want to hear what my mom said. So I have to respect that they don't want to hear what I say. And it's what they say is like taking a bite of humble pie. And I think I had a big slice of humble pie over the holidays. So, moving forward, it's like letting go. I have to let them go be who they're supposed to be. Like God only gives us our children for a finite time. And then we're supposed to say, bye-bye. If we are, I guess, I don't know if we're lucky or we're not lucky. I don't know if you can categorize it as being lucky or not lucky if your kids stay or if they go. But they do what they're supposed to do. And mine have left. So that's the only thing I can talk about is my experience. So my experience has been that they've left and they are doing them. And I have to appreciate it. I have to appreciate it because it's good. It's good. Now I have to focus on me. Oh my gosh, do you guys hate that? I feel like here we are at the beginning of a new year. And I'm not, as I mentioned again on Monday, I'm not going to join the gym and do any of those things. It's going to be learning how to let go and, declutter my life. And I was just talking to somebody this morning about how I tend to, for a long time, I tended to gossip. It's one of my things. Like I wanted to gossip. I wanted to talk about people. It gave me all this, I don't know. So my parents did. It's was a learned behavior. Both my parents, my father and my mother were big gossips. My dad probably still is. I have no idea. But, that was the way you communicated. You talked about this person, you talked about that person. And it wasn't always negative, by the way. It was a lot of times it was good stuff. Like you were talking about what somebody did down the street. And I think that's normal, good stuff. But it's the whisper down the lane and that sort of thing and judging other people, which makes it feel so yucky. And since coming into getting sober, it has been something that one of my goals for a really long time is to stop and recognizing it within myself. I can't judge anybody else. I can't talk about anybody else because I have no idea what it's like to live in that person's world. We think with even our best friends or our siblings or family members, we think we know what it's like to live in their life. We think we know, but we don't. We don't. Unless you literally are a fly on the wall or you have a recorder that's recording somebody else's life, you have no idea what their life is like. And to go in and say, this is good or this is bad or they did this and they did that. And you don't know why somebody might do one thing or do another thing. Where do we get to judge? Where do we find that place where we can judge? Because it doesn't make us feel good. I know it never made me feel good. I hate that. I every time that it would come up, now I barely do it. And I have one of my best friends just told me today, she's like, you don't do it at all. It's so awesome. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so awesome to remind me of that. That's what best friends do, right? I was kind of saying, well, I do this. And she's like, you're not doing it anymore. I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, thank you. But The reality is that when we clean our soul and we don't live by, okay, we're judging somebody else, we're looking for the bad things in people, I think that says more about where we are in our lives, in our life at that moment. If we're judging somebody else, we don't want to look at what's going on inside of ourselves because it's too painful. So instead of focusing on me and my problems, I'm going to focus on your problems. And I don't mean obviously you personally, but other people around us. I'm going to pay attention to that person. I'm going to pay attention to that person. I'm going to pay attention to that person, but I'm not going to pay attention to what's really going on in me, because that means that I'm going to have to take a look at myself, and I'm going to have to recognize what I'm doing that I do like and when I'm doing what I don't like. And I think that that's like what an amazing part of 2025 is going to be, is that ability to look and see what's really important. I think the money stuff and all that, we all have recognized, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, it's nice if you have money because you can pay your bills. But it was really interesting. I was listening to Tucker Carlson with his best friend, Billy Bush, yesterday. And they've been best friends for 40 years. I mean, I know that, Tucker's wife, Susie's little sister, Molly, used to date Billy, and, so they went to high school together. They've known each other forever and ever and ever. And they were talking about so many important things. And one of the things I found so interesting that Billy Bush said, and Tucker actually, was that they don't want to be billionaires. They would never want to be that, because they see people that have all this money and they're never happy. And I can tell you that most people that I know that have a lot of money are not that happy. It's unfortunate, because you're always reaching for what? I mean, material stuff, it doesn't fill your soul. I can tell you that for me personally. When I obviously I don't buy things to the extent of a billionaire. I mean, I go to like Nordstrom's Rack, and I get a deal, and I'm saying that in air quotes if you're listening to this on your walk. But I would go and I'd want to buy something because I want to get that high, right? I'd want to get that high from buying something, but it never lasted. The high was fleeting. It wasn't, it didn't sustain itself. What sustains itself is friendships. Like I just mentioned, like having my best friend say to me, "Oh my gosh, you know what? I see you changing." That relationship means more to me than anything I could ever buy. Anything. And I know you listening to this have somebody in your life you feel the exact way about. You're like, there's nothing to put a dollar sign on that relationship in my life. And how do we get to this place that we realize I don't need all this other stuff? I just need to open my heart. Now, you again might say, well, that's really hard, Elizabeth, opening my heart. And I'm going to say, yes, it is. It took me over a decade. I'm having some of my tea. You guys, by the way, just a little side note, it's freezing cold in Florida. I just walked the dogs and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had a coat on and a hat and a scarf. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cold. But I think, oh my gosh, did I just lose my train of thought? I think I did. You guys, I just lost my train of thought. But I know what it was. I was listening this morning to Halo, which I listen to every morning. I was listening to the Daily Reflection with Cavens, and they were talking about how relationships and how having a relationship is so much more than buying things and filling your soul, your hole in your soul. And I know what I was saying. And with my soul and with my heart, for a very, very, very long time, my heart was, I protected my heart. I put this steel wall around my heart, like they would have at Fort Dix, I think, like some military infantry that would have like what, how wide would the cement steel wall be? That's how my heart was. And the reason is because of my experiences I'd had previously, which I guess now looking back was trauma, which I always thought trauma had to be like, oh, I was in Vietnam, I fought in a war. Like, no, that's not what it's about, you guys. Trauma can be something, to one person might think it's small, and to another person it's humongous. Again, we can't judge others. I can't tell you how somebody else's feels. I cannot. I do not have a crystal ball. I am not able to tell how somebody else feels. But I felt like it took me a long time to recognize I had a steel wall around my heart. I had my heart stomped on for when I was younger. And and I can't change anything that happened in my past. It's just acknowledging where it came from, which gives me peace. So I recognize that um, I'm soft, but I came off with this whole bravado. Like, I got this. Don't you know who I am? Don't you know? And I'd be rude and I'd be hurtful and I'd be doing all these crazy things and push you away and push you away and push you away. I didn't want to let you in because if I let you in, you could hurt me and I don't want to be hurt. So I'm going to put that steel wall up. I only want to let in who I want to let in, and I'm not letting you in because you look scary. Even though you're like, well, wait a minute, I was dressed in this outfit and I was wearing that. I don't care. It was just your human beingness that I was afraid of. I was afraid of you hurting me because when you get hurt by the people that are supposed to love you and not hurt you, and you are hurt by them, it's like, wait, I got hurt by the people that aren't supposed to hurt me. And you think I'm going to trust a stranger? No way. Well, now, of course, fast forward, whatever many years it's been, I've realized that if I don't ever open my heart and I stay behind Fort Dix, my life gets really small. My friendships get really small. My community gets really small because I'm not being open. I'm being judgy because I don't want to let you in. That's where it all comes from. It all comes from the judgment inside of ourselves of how we feel about ourselves. It's literally the way I feel about me is how I portray you to be looking, right? So, and we judge people. We judge people all the time. We judge people by the outsides, not the insides. We judge people's outsides to our insides. Does that make sense to you? So guess what? So if I'm feeling negative and I'm feeling hurt or I'm feeling scared, I'm going to see somebody dressed in something that looks really pretty and really fancy, and I am going to judge that person for what they're wearing. So, oh, they're rich. They have a perfect life. Everything's going great in their lives. Everything's wonderful. My life sucks. Their life is perfect. And now I don't like you because you have a perfect life and I don't. So now I hate you, which then brings in what? Jealousy, envy, all those horrible, deadly sin words come into play when we're feeling like that. When we're feeling judgy, when we're feeling yucky about ourselves, we feel yucky about everybody else around us. And that's why we have to focus on fixing what's inside of us. We have to fix that, find out where is that? Like, it's like a weed, you know, in the garden that you go and you pull and you're like, why is this not coming up? And you're pulling and you're pulling and you're pulling. You're like, where's the end of this root? It's far, far down. That's what I had to realize, like this root, dark root deep down inside of me put me in a place where I felt less than. I might have went out looking like I was something, but on the insides, oh, my friends, I was feeling less than. I faked it. I put on a facade. You know, I feel like we all on this planet walk around in costumes, right? Some have fancy costumes. Some have costumes that look like a garbage man. Or some people has a costume that looks like they work at the grocery store. Or somebody has a costume that looks like they're an attorney. Or somebody has a costume that makes them look like a doctor. They probably are a doctor. And they probably are a lawyer. And they probably do work at the post office. And they probably do work at the Publix. But the reality is that that's just one part. That's like what we put on. What's important is inside of ourselves, inside of our souls. That's the important stuff. Not this other costume stuff, you guys. It's like we have to take care of what's inside of ourselves, our hearts, our souls, our brains. We have to take care of those things. We have to take that chance to go, wait a minute, if I'm feeling this way, why am I feeling this way? Why don't I like anybody right now? Why don't I like anybody right now? Because I hate people. I know somebody who hates people, and she hates people. She just thinks people are terrible. She thinks everybody's terrible. And I think if you think that about everybody, what are you looking through that you're thinking this, right? What are you looking through? Think about that. So if you're looking through your eyes and you're looking at other people, are you looking at other people as with the perspective of like life is amazing, it's such a gift, God is so good? Or are you looking at through glasses that are like, this world is so bad. All these people are so bad. Oh my gosh, these people voted for this person. They're bad. Got to tell you guys a funny story. Maybe not that funny, but I had somebody on my show about, I think it was 5 years. It's been a long time that this person's been on my show. I had to go back and find this episode. And the person had reached out to me and said, love my show, loved what I stood for. We were talking. He's like, I love your show, da 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 da. And then, and he was on whatever. And then he realized what my politics were. And he got so irate, so irate. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to get a lawyer. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow. This pulls something up in this person. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's valid. Like the person has these feelings and every right to have whatever feelings you have. And every right, you don't want to be on, you want me to take it down? No problem. You can take what, if I have a guest on and they don't want it on anymore because of my political views, I respect that. I will take it down. There's no money that crosses over between me and my guests. It's all me. I pay for everything that goes on here. And if you don't like me anymore and you want to have your episode off my show, I'll take it off my show. So I did. But I found out that it was like so interesting that I found that somebody was so emotionally riled by another person's beliefs, political beliefs, that it literally made them go, like literally went down this toilet bowl that was like, I felt terrible. I don't want anybody to feel like that. Like we live in such a world that it's like, it's good, bad, Republican, Democrat. It's like, if you're this, I don't like you. If you're that, I don't like you. And I think that the life is so much deeper and richer than we're giving it credit for. At least I would hope so. I would hope so. I mean, that looking through the lens that person's looking through, I guess it's like, I'm bad, he's good, or whatever. And because I support this presidential candidate, I'm bad and he's good. Okay. But I don't think that it's really like that. But I think as a human being, we should hope, I would hope, that everybody would want the best for the other person. And it doesn't matter. But this pointing out and saying that you're good and I'm bad and judging other people does not bring joy. It does not bring, it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve me, I can tell you that. It never made life better by me judging another human being. It made my life a lot smaller. And, since I've been reading the Bible, I'm on day 7. And I've been obviously doing my Bible studies for a long time on Halo. But what it's done for me is it's opened up the world to me in a different way. And that I feel like every human is on a journey. And I feel like we all are doing, like we want to do the best. And we want the best for everyone. And we're living in such a, they said, Jeff Cavins said this morning that, so many people are lonely. So many people are lonely in this world. And I feel like that makes me so sad because there's so many people. If every lonely person reached out to another lonely person, would people have to be lonely? Do people that are lonely, do they get themselves into that place because their hearts are broken and they don't believe and they've been hurt by so much that they don't trust and they have so much fear? There's no light. They don't want to open up because of fear of being hurt again? Is that where it comes from? It makes sense, right? Like if I'm not feeling good, I don't want to be around other people. If I feel badly about myself, I don't want to open myself up to other people. But the craziest thing is if we open ourselves up to other people, then those feelings can dissipate, because then we can find love, we can find friendship, we can find compassion, we can, our lives are so much richer when we have people in them. At least that's been my experience, and I've seen reports that have said that if you have a community, if you have a bunch of people around you, you'll live longer than you will if you're sitting by yourself. Is that true? I don't know. Do we believe every statistic? I don't know. But I do know this, that it is, I'm so much happier as a human being when I'm around others. Hence why I know when I was living on Amelia Island, on this little teeny island up in Florida for the short time that I lived there, a year and a half, it was so hard for me because I don't like feeling alone. I don't like feeling like I can't walk outside and see a million people and go down the street to the grocery store or go to a mall or just walk along the beach here in South Florida. And I won't do that today, by the way. Again, it's so freezing. But if I were, I love seeing all the people. I'm not an isolator. I don't like that. I know there are people that are, and I respect that too. But for me, I just love being able to. It was so funny. The windows are open here, obviously, again because it's cooler out, and I could hear like a little bit of the road. I can hear some ocean in the distance. I can hear cars going back and forth. I can hear a train. There's a train right around the corner from me, and I hear all these things. And then my head goes to crazy thoughts, which you guys might think, but it's like those Richard Scarry books with the cars and the planes and the da-da-da-da, all these forms of travel. And I hear the cars and you're like, oh, those people are going to work. Or you hear the train and you're like, oh, where's the freight driver? I wonder what he's got. Is he carrying people or is he carrying freight? Is he carrying sand? Where is he going? And you just know that you're not the only person whose heartbeat you hear. You hear, like, on that train are tons of heartbeats, and those cars are heartbeats, and it's humanness everywhere we go. But if we carry around a head full of sadness and remorse, and we don't let go of what isn't serving us anymore, we're going to keep staying alone. This, I realize, and I want to point this out because I know I've been doing this a long time. This whole getting sober, working the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, doing all of that. I've been doing it a long, long time. So I don't want to act like it's really easy to do this right away, because it isn't. But, it will work if you keep working on yourself and wanting to change something. It will work. And it's interesting because the third step of Alcoholics Anonymous is that you're going to turn your life and your care over to a power greater than yourself, to which the greater power for me is God. And for so long, I would say it was the hardest step for me to get past. So hard. So hard. Step one, I admitted I was powerless. Now that, again, I think every step in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, first, I just took it for face value. And then as time goes on, you go and you want to dig deeper. Like, what does that feeling of powerlessness mean? What does that mean to me in my heart and in my soul? I know what the word means, but what does it feel like to be powerless? And I can still remember, 18 and a half years later, what it feels like to have one sip of a dirty martini or one glass of wine, and one sip, because the one sip, I was just telling somebody this the other night, the one sip goes in, it touches my throat, goes down my throat, goes down my esophagus, and it feels warm and it feels tingly. And then you get this little feeling that's like everything's mecca and perfect for like 5 seconds, maybe not even 5 seconds. And it flees and it goes away, and then you chase it the rest of the night. And I take a sip, my brain turns up like a Christmas tree, and I want more. So I realized that was step one. So I was the powerlessness. And then step two came to believe that a power greater than myself exists and that and can restore me to sanity. I had to realize that I was insane, drinking and trying to drink differently was just whatever. Craziness, doing, insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. Hello, did that. So realizing that again took time to realize that, to get the courage and get the ego out of the way and say, oh my God, humbly say, oh my gosh, I totally get that. I totally understand what you're saying. Like, I have to believe in a God, like what, or something bigger than myself. For me, it was so easy to do God because I was raised Catholic, and God has always been amazing to me, and I've always felt God. So I loved that God piece, and I thought it was going to be easy. It was not as easy to admit the insanity part, but again, in time, it worked out. And then step three, to turn my turn my life over to God and trust that He's got me and He's got everybody around me and everything. That took a long, long time. But doing this and working that step over and over again with different sponsors and being taken through a third step, totally different ways with different people. The last time I did it was the most amazing with my sponsor. But what I realized so much is that I have no idea what's going to happen. And I don't know why so many people think they know what's going to happen. Like, we think if we do A, B, C, and D, everything's going to be perfect, but nothing ever turns out perfect, right? We're humans. Billy Bush, and going back to Billy Bush's interview yesterday with Tucker Carlson, that he was like, everybody goes through this life scathed. It doesn't matter. Everybody has something. So admitting that you are not alone is so big, because then you can seek help, because you're like, wait a minute, my ego isn't that big that I can't seek help, is it? Ego, easing God out. I need to reach out for help, and I need to let go of what my brain is saying about other people, because my brain is like, thinks that me personally isn't a great person. So how am I going to think you are? How am I going to think you are if I don't think I am? It all originates in our brains. Our feelings, our thoughts all come through our own brain. I don't think like you think. You don't think like I think. God made us individuals. We are not computers. We are not robots. We are human beings having a human experience. We got to lighten up on ourselves and get to this place in 2025 where we're more open and loving. I would call Henry, and I've said this to you guys so many times. I own the URL. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but, I would say, well, what do you think I should do? And he was like, you do you, boo-boo. And I'd be like, what? You do you, boo-boo. And he's exactly right. I did me, boo-boo. Now, when I don't do me, boo-boo, is when I'm going through a time when I need help. If I need help from somebody, let's say, oh, I know what it is. I am having somebody come and help me with this podcast. I'm having somebody come and say, is your lighting right? Is your camera right? Is your sound right? Is all of that right? And check it out and make sure I'm doing it properly. And I'm going to pay that gentleman. Now, I know that I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to make sure. I'm pretty good technically, not all the way, and I needed help. So I have to take that person's direction. That's obviously not me doing me, boo-boo. If you need help and you're going to ask a professional or someone that you respect and you know is going to help you, you've got to take that direction. And I think, again, our ego, when we hear things about ourselves, and this has also taken a lot of time, is going criticism. We take criticism as like a stab in the arm or a stab in the heart. And I understand that when you're a little kid, because a little kid, you're going to cry because that feels weird, because your mom's always said you're so great. And the teacher says, well, you're not so great. And you're like, ooh, and you cry. As adults, I always want to hear what people like and what people don't like, because it helps me grow and it helps me change. Criticism is humbling. Criticism is being able, sometimes it's not true, and you have to see who's giving you the criticism, if they even know what they're talking about. But all of that is like being able to hear something that you might not like and going, I'm going to take that and I'm going to change it, or I'm not going to change it. You get to decide that. But if you've been looking through life through dirty glasses that are sad and lonely, You got to find some Windex, and you got to find some ways to clean your heart, clean your glasses, open up. You might even have to fake it till you make it. But love starts inside of here. Self-love starts inside of here. Forgiveness starts from inside of here. Go ahead and take some time to fall in love with you. Today, clear it out, whatever you need to do. Oh my gosh, it's just so freeing. It's so freeing. You know, as much as it hurts when like your kids say to you, you know what, I'm all grown up. I don't need you to help me anymore. It hurts. It hurts because you're like, wait a minute, don't you need me? Don't you need me? I've spent so many hours and days taking care of you and doing this. But you got to take it and go, okay, you're right. You're grown up. You're independent. You don't need your mom to tell you what to do. It's okay. It's okay. It actually frees up time and space for other things. Let's be honest. It doesn't mean I love them any less. I love them so much, and I respect them so much, my children, for all the changes that they've done and all the things they've done in their lives. And wow, I get to sit back and go, bravo. And if they need me, they'll reach out. And that doesn't mean I can't reach out and say I love you. And but I can't just go meddling and pretending like they're still 15, because they're not. They're adults. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. If you did, please subscribe. I'd be really grateful if you subscribed. And Bible study is this Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. It's been great. It's small group. If you want to come, I'd love to have you. Information, DM me or email me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. Newsletters did not stop. Newsletter will be out this Friday. So if you want to get the newsletter, go to either elizabethchance.com, conversationswithbizzy.com, and it will prompt you right there, and that will come into your inbox. All new episodes of the podcast will come, and so will the newsletter. And I think that's enough of me. But just know this. I'm cheering you on. We're never alone. You're never alone. You're never alone. You're never alone. You can always reach out to me, and I promise I'll write you back. And again, that's at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. And please reach out and know that life is a journey, baby. And we're in 2025. It's time to change it up. Let's get better. Let's feel better. Let's get a community going, guys. Come on, sign up, please. And I do also have a Patreon. Go check out my Patreon. All of this you can find on my website at elizabethchance.com. So that is enough of me. Have a fabulous, fabulous week. I'll be back with you on Monday with a guest, and then you got me again solo next week. If you want me to talk about something, by the way, reach out to me too. Let me know. And until then, take care, everybody, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thanks for listening to Conversations with Bizzy. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, if you could subscribe, that would mean the world to me. And follow me on all social media. And you can also get my newsletter every Friday morning into your inbox. Just go to elizabethchance.com and subscribe. Take care.